Welcome back to the Body Composition Coach podcast. Yeah, I'm back to saying it again. It lasted all of like one episode. But look, I don't actually know how else to open the, open the podcast, but here we are. Welcome back again. So look, I don't know what we're on now. We're getting close to episode 50, I think, at this point. It must be, episode 48, 49, something around there. It probably depends on what order I release them in. So I'm probably saying this, and it might depend on me. More than anything. But listen, hopefully this far, if you've listened to all of the podcast, by the way, can you leave me a comment and let me know? I would be really interested to know, because I can see that thousands of you listen to this podcast every single week, but it's really weird because I don't know who a lot of you are. A lot of you haven't commented or left a review, or like maybe you're not a client or you've never really engaged with me in any way, but you listen to my podcast all the time. I would actually just be interested to know, like, who's listened to all of these podcasts, who's listened to most of them. Drop me a little comment. Let me know if you've been here for a while. Which one was your favorite podcast? Or like, was there a recent one you really enjoyed? And as always, if you can, leave me a little review. It goes a long, long way. The reason that you found this podcast in the first place will likely be because somebody else left a review and it boosted my podcast. And that's why you found it. So look, let's get this podcast out to as many people as we possibly can. So the subject that I want to talk about today, and it's going to start with a bit of a plea and a bit of a question. Can we all please stop signing up for stuff? Like, I'm going to repeat that again. Can we all please just stop signing up for stuff? Stop signing yourself up for things. And I mean this in a very specific circumstance more than anything that will probably apply to you. And it's nothing, there's nothing more frustrating from like a coaching point of view than having a client comes into the program and they're like, right, I want to build muscle, I want to get lean, I want to get defined, I want to be strong. Like, I want to work on my strength, my confidence, my aesthetics, all the stuff that I generally specialize in when it comes to weight training and nutrition, and performing at your very best, right? And then like 4 weeks in, they'll go, oh, I've just signed up for a Hyrox, by the way. Oh, I've just decided I'm going to do a half marathon. Oh, randomly, I was watching this like Instagram reel of this person who's doing a marathon, and it's inspired me. I'm going to do a marathon. Please stop. Please stop doing it, right? And this isn't actually specifically about clients, because I'll have this conversation with them. We'll educate them. We'll teach them this stuff. We'll show them why that maybe isn't such a good idea. But I wanted to actually share that with you today as well, because you might be guilty of this too, right? You might have goals that are, let's use the muscle and fat loss thing for now, just because that's generally why people are here and what they work with me for and that kind of thing. So let's use that as the example. And let's say your goal is muscle building and fat loss. You aren't making your life any easier, and if anything, you're making it way harder by deciding you're going to do a Hyrox, a half marathon, or a marathon, or an Ironman, or whatever it might be, right? Or triathlon, or whatever you're going to decide to do. You're not actually making life any easier. I'm going to explain to you why today. And this isn't me just being like a grumpy old man and being like, focus on one thing, you're going to get better results. It's not even that. It's just when you have all of these contrasting things going on, the chances of you being successful at all of them, or even one of them, becomes less and less. So to explain this, there's a word that I will use, and it's called trainability. You only have a finite amount of trainability. And trainability is your ability to adapt and recover from something. So your ability to adapt and improve. And let me explain a scenario to you which will explain this better. When you go to the gym and you lift weights, you then go home and you recover from lifting weights, your body adapts and you get a little bit stronger, a little bit more muscle, a little bit maybe less body fat if you're in a deficit or whatever it might be, right? Just like not even noticeable, but that tiny little bit that you don't even notice. And then you go again to the gym and you do the same thing, and you come home and you rest and you recover, and you then again build a little bit of muscle. But your body can only take so much adaptation. It can only handle so much adaptation at a time, right? So it doesn't actually matter if you go to the gym more and more and more and more. If you start going 7 days a week, twice a day, 7 days a week, you're probably overdoing it and you won't be able to recover from it. And therefore, your trainability has been exceeded, right? So there's only so much trainability you have. And for some of you, it might be that you can only physically recover and adapt to like 4 strength sessions a week, working reasonably hard. And if you do a 5th or a 6th or a 7th or an 8th or a 9th or a 10th, you're not going to get anything extra from it because you can only recover from that set specific amount, right? So hopefully this makes sense. You are only so trainable. So when you go and train, whether that could be running as well, right? Could be improving your marathon time or your half marathon time. You can only recover and adapt to so much stimulus. The stimulus is the session. So if you go into the gym and you train, you strength train, that's your stimulus. You're not building any muscle when you're in the gym, right? What you're doing is creating a stimulus or a message or a signal to your body to then adapt, because this is a stress that your body needs to get good at handling, and therefore your body adapts, right? That's you training and then adapting. You can only handle so much of that. When it comes to the stimulus you give yourself, there is a finite amount you can recover from, and once you exceed that, you are getting no extra benefit. So let's say muscle building is the aim, and let's say you can recover from 4 sessions a week, because that's all you can physically recover from, and I'll talk about what the barriers to that might be. And then you start training for a marathon on top of that, you don't get extra trainability, right? If you've capped out your trainability with 4 gym sessions, and then you add 4 runs in, you don't get extra trainability. So what happens? Well, you can only recover and adapt to so much. So your body is only going to recover to half of that stimulus. Maybe it might be, or it will only adapt to half of that stimulus. So it might be, a little bit of the weight training, a little bit of the running. It might actually only just be the running and not the weight training at all. It might be the weight training and not the running at all. But you will only adapt to part of that stimulus. Just because you've done more doesn't mean you're going to recover from more or adapt more. And the same thing with like Hyroxes and things like that. The more stimulus you're chucking into the pot here, let's say your trainability is 100, and like just give it some numerical value, and you use 80 of those 100 trainability points on your weight training. If you add another 80 trainability points in running, you've exceeded what you can actually recover from. You're not going to recover from it. You're not actually going to adapt, and you're not going to get better, right? You're not going to build muscle, or you're not going to get better at running. You're not going to build your cardiovascular system. So when you start chucking all these different things in the pot, Hyrox and half marathons and swims and runs and triathlons and Ironmans or whatever it might be, when you start chucking all that in, there is no guarantee that you get any benefit from doing it, because all you're starting to do is pull in 5 different directions rather than 1, right? And this is why I'm always really keen on having a set target and go for it, right? Have an adaptation in mind that you want, and that adaptation might be to get more muscle. The adaptation might be to lose more body fat. The adaptation could be performance-based, and it might be to do a Hyrox, it might be to do a half marathon. But one thing that I tend to notice with you guys is you sign up to Hyroxes and half marathons and that sort of thing because you think it's going to help you with the other goal that you have. What you end up doing is using up lots of the capacity you can actually recover from, or lots of that trainability, with stuff that doesn't even matter to you, right? If you really care about doing Hyrox, fine. If you really care about running a marathon, wicked, right? But focus on that. Go and focus on that and do the training for that stuff. Because if you do the training for that stuff, you'll recover from it better, and you'll actually do better at the Hyrox or the marathon or the half marathon or the triathlon. You'll do better at that because, again, your trainability, if we call your trainability 100 and you use 100 points of your trainability on the triathlon, you're going to do better at triathlon, right? We end up spreading ourselves too thin. We end up having 3 or 4 different stimuluses that we're trying to recover from and we're trying to adapt to, and we end up recovering and adapting to none of them. So we end up burnt out, tired, and going nowhere, getting no real benefit from any of that stuff you're doing, right? It's like throwing what you can at the wall and seeing what sticks, and then nothing sticks, right? So you end up doing like loads of endurance work to help you with your fat loss, but that ends up blunting the muscle growth and the strength work that you're doing, and uses up the miles, use up the recovery that you were going to use to grow, and you end up going nowhere fast. So when I say to people, like, just focus on one goal, that's not just me, trying to get them to focus on, the one thing, you should go all in on muscle building. You should go all in on fat loss. It's just actually using what trainability you have to the best of its potential. Now, you're probably asking at this point, well, how do I know how much trainability I have? The reality is you're never going to really know. You're never going to fully know. Now, from a coaching point of view, and something that I do within my program with my clients, is I monitor lots of different health markers. That gives me an idea as to when we are exceeding things, maybe when we're getting too fatigued, when performance is dropping. So that's something that I keep an eye on with my clients. But if you're asking me just from like a person at home who's training, trying to build some muscle, trying to do a Hyrox, trying to lose some fat, and trying to run a marathon all at the same time, you're not really going to know what you can and can't recover from. Some signs to look out for are like fatigue, tiredness, restlessness, lack of sleep, lack of improvement in things would be a good one to look for. But you're never really going to know, like, oh, you can definitely get away with 2 runs and 6 strength training sessions in a week, and that's where your trainability sits. The other element to this that you got to be aware of is other things that affect trainability, not just how much training you do. So how much you're sleeping will affect trainability, how much you are drinking alcohol, how good your nutrition is, whether you're in a calorie deficit, whether you are stressed with work, whether you're stressed with family stuff, whether you are moving loads during the day. Like, all of these different things will have an effect on how trainable you are and what your trainability looks like. So the more stressed you are, the more tired you are, the worse you're sleeping, the less you can recover from as well. So now you're probably thinking, oh my God, I've created a perfect shitstorm. And yes, most of you have, right? A lot of you have, and I see this from my clients. A lot of you have, because you're not sleeping that well. You're actually really stressed at work. It's school holidays currently while I'm filming this, so you're probably stressed with the kids anyway. Then you're trying to do your runs, your Hyrox prep, and your weightlifting all at the same time, and you for some reason think that you're going to adapt to that and get good at it all. Let me tell you now, you're not. Your pot is overflowing more than you have ever realized. Your pot is on the brink of collapse at this point, right? So what should you do about it? This is where like phasing and periodization becomes really, really important. So something that I use with my clients is we periodize to get good at a specific thing over a specific period of time, and then we shift. Now, what you need to understand is just because you're trying to get better at something, like let's say you're trying to build muscle and you spend all your time going in on building muscle for a little while, right? Just because you then shift your focus to maybe marathon prep doesn't mean that you have to then lose all of your muscle, right? Holding on to something is very, very different to growing it, building it, and improving it. So we should be picking areas that we are trying to improve, right? We should stop trying to do everything all at once. And I'll tell you in a minute where I think that idea comes from. But if we stop trying to do everything all at once and we go all in on one thing, fat loss, then we go all in on muscle building. And then we decide we want to have a performance focus. So we go all in on the Hyrox stuff, or we go all in on doing a half Ironman or something like that, right? Go all in on that stuff and periodize it. You can keep hold of your muscle whilst you train for a half Ironman. You can build your muscle and then go into a half Ironman prep and keep hold of it. You can then keep your cardiovascular fitness of a reasonable level when you go back to building muscle again afterwards, or whatever it is that you decide to do. So keeping hold of something requires much less of a stimulus and much less trainability than actually trying to build it and improve it. That is a very different system, and it is much more challenging for the body. So look, hopefully what you've taken from this, because I'm going to just talk about very quickly where I think this idea comes from or where this problem comes from. But hopefully what you're taking from this podcast so far is pick something and go all in on getting good at it. You can only adapt and improve at so many things at once. Usually one thing is best, right? Pick one thing, get good at it. When you're good at it, you can pick something else and you can stay good at it, and you can just pick something else and get good at that, right? Periodize properly. This is where good quality programming comes in. People think programs are writing a list of exercises down. They are not. Periodization over months and years is super, super important. So get good at it, move on if you want, right? But you only have the capacity to recover from so much. Yes, you can help that. Sleep better, eat better, fuel yourself better. That would be less stressed. Spend less time getting stressed. Send the kids off to a babysitter, whatever you got to do. But yes, that will improve your trainability in a way. It won't like maximize. It won't mean it's like endless. It will never make it infinite, right? It's always, your trainability is always going to be finite. So pick one thing, get good at it, stay good at it, move on to something else. So you're probably thinking now, well, where does this come from? Like, why is everyone doing this? I can tell you now, it comes from social media, because I see it myself, right? Because I fall victim to this sometimes myself. I will be scrolling through reels and my goals are building muscle and looking good and feeling capable and feeling strong, feeling athletic. Like, that's my goal. It's very simple, and it's actually all pretty much one stimulus. It's about lifting weights, it's about getting strong doing that, and it's about lifting through a good range of motion so my body is healthy, agile. What are the words I'm looking for? You get the picture, right? That's my goal. I want to aesthetically look and feel good, but I want to move well too. I can do that all through weightlifting and a little bit of cardio, right? But I found myself sometimes, I'll watch a reel and it'd be really motivating. I'll be like, maybe I should do a Hyrox. Maybe I should. Maybe should I train for a Hyrox as well? And then I'll look at something, and actually I had this crazy idea a year or so ago when I'd just done a photo shoot and I was like looking for a bit of inspiration, and I was like, I saw a reel and I was like, oh, I think I might do a half Ironman. I don't want to do a half Ironman. I have no interest in doing half Ironman. He says this, and like this clip will come back to haunt me at some point. I have no interest in doing a half Ironman, right? But I got inspired. I was like, oh, that'll probably, I'll just do a half Ironman, challenge myself to something, and I'll feel good doing it, and I'll get really fit doing it, and I'll probably get lean doing it. And then like my coaching head kicked in, and I was like, no, you won't. Like, no, you won't. You don't like doing cardio anyway. You do it because you have to do it. So I couldn't think of anything worse than spending my whole week doing loads of cardio for something that I don't actually really care about doing. And that's just going to have a massive negative impact on my strength training and my ability to build muscle and my strength in general. So what am I doing, right? And I genuinely think a lot of people fall into this trap. There's this huge like culture on social media where we look at the 1%, because there are people out there, right, who have great trainability. They probably don't have kids. They probably don't have a proper job. They probably don't have any stresses in their life, for one, right? But they have great trainability. So they'll go and do like an Ironman, and they'll squat 200 kilos and they'll be absolutely ripped and aesthetic. Now, either they're a genetic freak of nature, which is all like completely possible, or they have wicked trainability, or they're just like the top 1%, right? And we all want to be the top 1% all the time. And I am the biggest advocate for you being, the best you can possibly be, really challenging yourself, really pushing yourself. But it's very, very easy to get that confused and mix that up with throwing everything at it, seeing what sticks to the wall. So we see this image on social media of how cool and how inspiring these people are. Look at these amazing things they're doing. So we end up just filling our pot with loads of stuff that we don't actually care about, or maybe that's the wrong way of putting it. It's not actually the priority right now. And we end up blurring the lines and not getting any of the thing that we actually want, right? And this is the thing. If you work with me now, if you're one of my clients, or you're thinking about working with me right now, the chances are the reason you're thinking about that is because I am one of the best at helping you to build muscle and lose body fat and achieve an athletic physique that makes you feel and look amazing, right? That is what I'm good at. That's what I do, okay? That's probably why you're thinking of working with me, or you already work with me. But when you join and you sign up and then you go, oh, I'm going to do all this other stuff as well, this Hyrox, this, like, just wait. Just hang on a second. Let's do the bit that you came for first. I can coach you through Hyrox. I can coach you through a half marathon, a marathon, an Ironman. I had an athlete doing an Ironman recently. I can coach you through that stuff. But let's do it bit by bit. Let's periodize it. Let's focus on the priority right now. Let's get good at that priority. Then let's sit down, let's reassess and look at the next priority. Let's periodize this over months and years and actually make sure that the thing we're trying to adapt to is the thing we adapt to, and we get that benefit before we move on and look at something else. So just to summarize this for you, because I do realize this is one of my more complex podcasts, but I feel like it's important to just share this stuff with you. So just to clarify for you, you only have so much trainability. If you do too much and throw too much at it and hope that I'm going to get good at running, I'm going to get good at lifting, I'm going to get good at swimming, I'm going to get good at Hyrox all at the same time, the chances are you will be a jack of all trades and master of none. You will not get very good at any of that stuff, right? There is a ceiling that you can recover from. You need to try and find the line between what you can actually recover from and get somewhere near it, right? You need to get somewhere near that line of what you can recover from. The things that will affect that are things like your nutrition, your sleep, your stress. The worse all of that stuff, the less your body will adapt to. This is why a lot of my clients, by the way, only train like 3 or 4 times a week, because that is their ceiling for what they can adapt to. But we will optimize the 3 or 4 sessions that they can do a week to a level way above what the normal person does. So they will get so much more out of 3 or 4 sessions than what most people get out of like 6 or 7, because we understand their trainability, what they're able to recover from, and we maximize it. All right. So don't try and do everything all at once. Focus on the thing that is the priority. I will see you on the next podcast. And don't forget, leave me a review. And also tell me, I don't know what number podcast this is. It's probably like 47, 48 or 49. But let me know. Have you listened to all of them? Which one's been your favorite? Have you got any comments on this one? I'll see you in the next one.